Welcome, everybody, to Artful Tuesdays. Today, I have again with me Maria, and we are going to talk about religion and faith and a crisis of faith and secular humanism, maybe, and some paganism and the feelings of reverence and awe and sublime and all these deep concepts. And we're going to do it through a poem by a modernist. He's considered a modernist, Wallace Stevens, and he wrote a poem called Sunday Morning. But Maria, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah. And this is a complicated poem, right? This is a challenge for people.
Definitely.
Yeah, but I think one of the things I've seen in reading this is that there's some words you don't know, and we'll talk about those words, but it's not, to some degree, the words itself are not that complicated. What's somewhat challenging about it is, what do these images add up to? Yeah. And that's where the work has to happen. I'm in a poetry group here in Austin with some PhDs and philosophers and smarter than me people, way smarter than me people. And one of the things we talked about was just like how, unlike many of the other art forms, I do think, I think we concluded in the sense that poetry does demand more of you than almost any other art form. Like, I think other art forms, you can be a little more passive, you can enjoy. I mean, with painting, you need to experience it to some degree, but it's still very much, you could just look, use your eyes, you can see there's a person there standing in front of that person, and you could ask a couple general questions or not, and still kind of maybe enjoy it to some degree. With a poem, you really need to dig to get the enjoyment sometimes. And I think that is the process of poetry, is the digging, the delving, the seeing with and through words carefully examined from the mind of a great poet. So that, I have said on the show a couple of times that the poem we're about to read is a little challenging. And I always fear that that's going to turn people off to it. But I hope that you can appreciate and enjoy this. And that's why we're putting it in this conversational tone. But when you first read it, before we talk about like some of your experiences with this poem, which this is the first time you've read it, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And you've never heard of it before. Have you heard of Wallace Stevens before?
I don't think so, no.
So he's an American poet.
Yeah, I found that after reading the poem.
Yeah. And he's from, I think, Connecticut. And he was like an executive at an insurance company or something like that.
Wow.
Which is really interesting. Like, he's, so American in a lot of ways. He's just he loved his job. He worked hard. He worked as like just a normal 9-to-5 job, made money, but he was like this grand poet who wrote romantic verse and poetry of the epic kinds like this. And I always think of him as a really good example of, you don't have to separate business or commerce and imagination and beauty, which we often think you have to.
Yeah, and that people have different levels to them, right? You can have a very corporate 9-to-5 desk job, but have this other, creative life outside of work.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in that they're juxtaposed to each other, but yeah, you can be both things at the same time.
I agree. I think it's very helpful to use him for me as an example of that. And this poem is one of his most celebrated poems. The other one he wrote that, if you read a lot of anthologies, he'll sometimes be in it for, is The Emperor of Ice Cream, which is a fun, kind of silly, I think of it as kind of silly, but fun poem. This one is not silly. It's pretty serious. And before we read it, I wanted to ask you, and I'll kind of share something from Ayn Rand as well, but one of the things I think that's happening in the poem is it's about a woman, and really it's about anybody, but the character is a woman going through a crisis of faith. They're thinking about faith, her religion, her meaning of life. And, I was wondering if that is an experience you've ever had yourself.
I think most people do, especially most people who were religious to at least some degree, and I was. I became a self-proclaimed, I don't know if that's the right word, well, atheist at the age of 19. But between 10 and 19, I was religious in a kind of guilty and fearful way.
Is there another kind?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a non-religious family. Generally, Russians weren't very religious for a big chunk of the 20th century. After the fall of the Soviet Union, I think people started to go to religion much more, but go to church and kind of take on religion much more. But my family wasn't one of those. And sadly, when I was 10, there was a personal sort of tragedy in the family. A family member passed away, and I think that kind of like turned the switch for some of the more immediate members in my family. And I think they turned to religion at first as just a way, to find comfort and solace, as you oftentimes do with religion. But yeah, religion, when not used properly, or maybe, there is no proper way to be religious, can make you a very fearful and sort of like guilt-ridden individual. I mean, for me, it was like the tragedy was so kind of shattering that I felt like if I don't pray to God and, do Lent and go to church, then tragedy will keep on happening. And I think that's a very, it's a difficult situation to be growing up in as a kid, and then as a, like a hormonal teenager, not really understanding what religion is and why am I following this? Am I just following by example that are set by the old, the older members in my family? But yeah, and then I discovered Ayn Rand, and when I moved to the UK, kind of the friends that the people that I met who became my close friends, they were all non-religious, and I actually found about Ayn Rand through them. And yeah, I mean, slowly by slow, like they had very very gentle conversations with me, because they could see like I still wouldn't let go of the religious aspects in my life. So yeah, but they kind of put me on the right path. And but I think the best thing about becoming an atheist is like you take your life into your own hands. You realize like no one's going to punish you, no higher mystical creature. Your decisions in life are yours, and and heaven and hell will be here on earth. And that's a scary thought, because then it means like, okay, I'm going to have to take control of my life, and this is all that it will be.
It's all
like,
on you.
And this is the here and the now, and I was dead before I was born, so when I die, like it will just be nothing.
You're dead before you were born. It's true.
And it's a scary thought, but it's liberating if you're not scared to kind of find that freedom and take your life into your own hands, then it's better than any anything that religion can ever provide.
And you said something about being in Russia, and they weren't religious for much of the 20th century.
Yeah,
they were famously in the like the relation to the West, in a sense, is they threw away much of the religiosity that had come before them. But one thing so I'm not Russian, obviously, I've never been to Russia. Something that Ayn Rand pointed out was that communism that they took over was a form of religion. It was a different side of the same. I mean, it was mysticism, but it was the same kind of thing. And there's a, so this is a book, or this is a poem that has mystical elements, but it has like a mystical underpinning. And we'll talk about that a little bit, about where they're trying to get these high level concepts. And I wanted to, religious concepts. And I wanted to read something from the 25th anniversary. You might have read the introduction to this. And it's something I've read a couple of times on the show, because I think it's so valuable about why she thinks the Fountainhead is so powerful to people, why it remains powerful, like what she was trying to get across that's unique.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is, here's a quote: "The realm of values, man's code of good and evil, with emotional connotations of height, uplift, nobility, reverence, grandeur, which pertain to the realm of man's values, but which religion has arrogated to itself." And later she talks about the religious monopoly, right? And this is where she says, "Religion's monopoly in the field of ethics has made it extremely difficult to communicate the emotional meaning and connotations of a rational view of life. And just as religion has preempted the field of ethics, turning morality against man, so it has usurped the highest moral concepts of our language, placing them outside this earth and beyond man's reach. Exaltation is usually taken to mean an emotional state evoked by contemplating the supernatural. Worship means the emotional experience of so on and so forth. Reverence and sacred." And she goes on, and there's a long passage continuing of that, where she talks about these emotional states that are, we if we give up religion, we, in a sense, give up, we're told we give up these concepts, these the highest of reverence, the highest exaltation. And her argument is, no, there's a secular argument to be had of what our consciousness and what our highest values are, and that we could achieve. I think Wallace Stevens is saying something similar, and he's saying it in a different way. He doesn't have Ayn Rand. This is like 1920s or something like that, or 30s. I don't know the exact date, 30s.
I think it was after or during the First World War.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the first part of the 20th century, but before Ayn Rand, sometime before this. So, but he feels the same kind of way. And we'll read this. And the way we're gonna read this is, I'll read a stanza and Maria will read a stanza. That way you don't have to just listen to my voice. You can kind of mix it up. But I just want to kind of have you as the audience thinking about times you've had a crisis of faith. How do you get exaltation if you're an atheist? If you don't believe in God and religion, and you don't go to church to feel the high exaltation, where do you get it from? Do you have it? Do you feel sacred about anything at all?
Oh, of course. But, well, I mean, everything around you, you can get, I don't know, when you read a beautiful passage in a book, or when you listen to someone that you admire speak and they say something profound, that for me has been, more important and significant than what any minister or priest could have ever delivered, during Mass. So, I mean, if anything, doesn't life become better when you give up on religion? But I think it also, I think it depends on the reasons for which. I think a lot of atheists are, I don't know what the right way to put it is, and I don't want to offend anyone.
Oh, I'll offend them. They're mostly most atheists today that are very mystical. They still believe in a new kind of mysticism. It's, there's some kind of, they say there's not a God with a beard in the sky, but there's some force that controls all of us. There's some master spirit or something like that. And that's something that's in this poem, and that's something that's in the romantic poets that we've read in the past as well. That's a tradition that definitely exists. But my point is that, I agree with what you're saying 100%, is that they're not really giving up religion. And part of it is, but I want to emphasize what you said that I absolutely love, and I think it's so important, is that when you do push away these church, God, Christian religious view of these concepts, what opens up is that all that's available is your life and the values of your life. And that's where you have to and should get these values from, these highest of concepts. And in the Fountainhead, there's some examples of how Howard Rourke, there's that line where he's touching the building, and someone points out it's like you're having an orgasm basically, and it's the highest, it's like Indian torture, and that line about ecstasy, and he's like, it's just a building, Howard Rourke. And he's like, isn't it, or is it? right? And it's not just a building. It's all those things. It's the highest level that you can attain in all areas of your life. And yeah, I think like when you understand that this life is all there is, and those concepts still of consciousness, exaltation, reverence, all that still applies. It applies to your friends, to the things you're talking about, to the world around you, to enjoying this life and enjoying the beauty and the grandeur of the world we live in.
Mm.
So I agree. That's great.
Do you think it takes a certain type of person to like be a right type of atheist? Like not everyone just enjoys the life around them and is capable of admiring the man-made beauty.
I think like Friedrich Nietzsche said that if God, in the sense of if God is dead, then you're going to be nihilistic in a sense, right?
Mm.
I think he stated God is dead, but I think what he was trying to get at is that you're going to then, if you don't replace it with something, and I think he thought you couldn't replace it with stuff. I'm not a master of Nietzschean philosophy or anything, but there is I think if you surrender and give up religion as like the guide and what's going to be this is the highest you can look for, this is the highest of beauty that's achievable, this is everything fits under this umbrella, you either will replace it with something else, like new atheists do, where they replace it with a new kind of, they're using the same moral language, they're using the same concepts, and they think of it as like a mother spirit or a father spirit or whatever. They still think that there's a power out there above and outside of themselves that is controlling them and the rest of the world in a sense. And so they're basically mystics. And this includes like Dawkins and Harris. Like those guys sound sometimes very mystical when they actually talk about meaning. Now, if you don't do one of those things, then I think you will become nihilistic, where nothing matters. No values are important to you. And, it's like, who cares about, love isn't real, friendship comes and goes. These things are all fleeting. They're not really they don't matter. We're just a bag of bones hurtling through space on this, meaningless spaceship called Earth in this cosmos of, that we're just insignificant little dots. I think that kind of is the inevitable result. And
death, I think death just hangs as this like cloud over people, where they say, well, I'll die anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
But that's exactly why you should care.
Is that you're going to die. Yeah, exactly. And this is all you get. And that is exactly why you should care. I agree. Okay. So let's get into the poem, and we'll talk about it a little bit more after we go through it. And so, like I said, I'm going to read one stanza, and then Maria will read the next, and then we'll just go back and forth. Cool. All right. Let's get started. By the way, I want to give one word because I don't want you to get tuned out right away. Peignoir is...
I know what a peignoir is.
Oh, I did not know that. Did you know that already?
I did know what it meant. But
but
there's a few other words that I had to look up. So
well, you know what a cockatoo is. You know what complacency is.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that. But what is a peignoir? Why don't you tell us? Because
a robe.
It's like a woman's morning dress. Yeah. So I picture this woman sitting around lounging Sunday morning in her morning dress. Okay, you ready? No more explanations until after we're done. Whew. All right, Sunday Morning by Wallace Stevens. Complacencies of the peignoir, and late coffee, and oranges in a sunny chair, and the green freedom of a cockatoo, upon a rug mingled to dissipate the holy hush of ancient sacrifice. She dreams a little, and she feels the dark encroachment of that old catastrophe as a calm darkens among water lights. The pungent oranges and bright green wings seem things in some procession of the dead, winding across wide water without sound. The day is like wide water without sound, stilled for the passing of her dreaming feet over the seas to silent Palestine, dominion of the blood and sepulchre.
Why should she give her bounty to the dead? What is divinity if it can come only in silent shadows and in dreams? Shall she not find in comforts of the sun, in pungent fruits and bright green wings, or else in any balm or beauty of the earth, things to be cherished like the thought of heaven? Divinity must live within herself, passions of rain or moods in falling snow, grievings in loneliness or unsubdued elations when the forest blooms, gusty emotions on wet roads on autumn nights, all pleasures and all pains remembering, the bough of summer and the winter branch. These are the measures destined for her soul.
Jove in the clouds had his inhuman birth. No mother suckled him. No sweet land gave large mannered motions to his mythy mind. He moved among us as a muttering king, magnificent, would move among his hinds until our blood, commingling, virginal, with heaven, brought such requital to desire the very hinds discerned it in a star. Shall our blood fail? Or shall it come to be the blood of paradise? And shall the earth seem all of paradise that we shall know? The sky will be much friendlier then than now, a part of labor and a part of pain, and next in glory to enduring love, not this dividing and indifferent blue.
She says, I am content when wakened birds before they fly test the reality of misty fields by their sweet questionings. But when the birds are gone and their warm fields return no more, where then is paradise? There is not any haunt of prophecy, nor any old chimera of the grave, neither the golden underground, nor isle melodious, where the spirits gather them home, nor visionary south, nor cloudy palm, remote on heaven's hill that has endured as April's green endures, or will endure like her remembrance of awakened birds, or her desire for June and evening tipped by the consummation of the swallow's wings.
She says, but in contentment, I still feel the need of some imperishable bliss. Death is the mother of beauty. Hence, from her alone shall come fulfillment to our dreams and our desires. Although she strews the leaves of sure obliteration on our paths, the path sick sorrow took, the many paths where triumph rang its brassy phrase, or love whispered a little out of tenderness, she makes the willows shiver in the sun, for maidens who are wont to sit and gaze upon the grass, relinquished to their feet. She causes boys to pile new plums and pears on disregarded plate. The maidens taste and stray impassioned in the littering leaves.
Is there no change of death in paradise? Does ripe fruit never fall? Or do the boughs hang always heavy in that perfect sky, unchanging, yet so like our perishing earth, with rivers like our own that seek for seas they never find, the same receding shores that never touch with inarticulate pang? Why sat the pair upon those river banks, or spice the shores with odors of the plum? Alas, that they should wear our colors there, the silken weavings of our afternoons, and pick the strings of our insipid lutes. Death is the mother of all beauty, mystical, within whose burning bosom we devise our earthly mothers waiting sleeplessly.
Supple and turbulent, a ring of men shall chant in orgy on a summer morn, their boisterous devotion to the sun, not as a god, but as a god might be, naked among them, like a savage source. Their chant shall be a chant of paradise, out of their blood returning to the sky. And in their chant shall enter, voice by voice, the windy lake wherein their Lord delights, the trees like seraphim, and echoing hills that choir among themselves long afterward. They shall know well the heavenly fellowship of men that perish and of summer morn. And whence they came and whither they shall go, the dew upon their feet shall manifest.
She hears upon that water without sound a voice that cries, the tomb in Palestine is not the porch of spirits lingering. It is the grave of Jesus where he lay. We live in an old chaos of the sun, or old dependency of day and night, or island solitude, unsponsored, free, or that white water, inescapable. Deer walk upon our mountains, and the quail whistle about us their spontaneous cries. Sweet berries ripen in the wilderness, And in the isolation of the sky, at evening, casual flocks of pigeons make ambiguous undulations as they sink downward to darkness on extended wings.
Downward to darkness on extended wings. All right. Whew. All right. So take it away. What's going on, Maria? What's this poem about?
I mean, this poem is as beautiful as it is difficult.
It's fun to read, right? Is it?
You can say so.
Okay, you don't think so? So what is your experience? I think it's fun to read. What is your experience?
No, the first time I read it, I was like, what is going on?
Okay. What about this time?
This is my 5th time, maybe.
Okay, still? Still early?
I mean, at first, I like you said, to me at the beginning, it was just a lot of very vivid imagery. You know, there's colors, there's smells, there's nature, there's direct speech. But at first I was like, I don't understand what any of this means, on the whole. I'm trying to, kind of paint a mental picture in my head, and I'm struggling.
Yeah.
But then you start to, take it apart, sort of line by line, and dig into the metaphors, and and maybe sometimes too much. Like, I started questioning every mention of orange and plum, and like, is it just a reference to fruit, or what is the meaning? Like, is there a biblical significance to this? Is this, like a metaphor for something? But that's the beauty of poetry, I guess.
So I just learned something from Anne Chikalala. She's reading a book by Stephen Fry on poetry, because Stephen Fry he's written books on mythology, on ancient Greek heroes, and on poetry. He's a big fan. One of the things he recommends, and I think this is good, I've recommended something similar but not quite like this, is for like a month, every night read the same poem.
Wow. Yeah.
And the magic it will work on you. It's power. And I think, like, now which poem you choose, that's up to you, obviously. Maybe you're not ready for this. You don't feel, maybe you don't like it. Maybe it's not doing anything for you. That's fine. But if you like any part of it, read it once a day for a month and see what happens. I mean, it doesn't actually take that long to read it. If you read it out loud, right? It's less than 10 minutes. It's 5-6 minutes of reading max. Not even, I think. It seems long, but it's not that long, really. Yeah. So I think that's a powerful thing, because I think, the more you get into it, the more it'll do its work on you in a sense. And I think that's part of it. Yeah. But
that's good advice.
Stephen Fry is awesome. I love Stephen Fry. He's got some good stuff. And so the question is, what is happening in this poem? And what could we talk about it while we're here without doing a line by line, massive, huge thing with it? Yeah.
It's Sunday morning, a woman sort of lingering over breakfast.
Yeah. So, the opening is very important, just like the ending. But so we get this opening image of her, and it's important that she dreams a little, and she feels this. So she's sitting there, right, just trying to enjoy her breakfast. And it's described in very, like, sensuous ways. I feel there's something about the word usage and the way he's using it that to me feels sensual. Complacencies of the peignoir, and late coffee and oranges in a sunny chair, and the green freedom of a cockatoo upon a rug, right? Like, I could feel, for me, I don't know about you, I really feel these things. The rug.
Yeah,
and
it's very bohemian, no?
That's a good word.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it's bohemian. It's the stuff around her. And then we've all had this experience where we're like sitting there enjoying something, maybe we're by ourselves, and then all of a sudden, boom, our mind takes us somewhere else, out of the room, and we kind of fly away somewhere else. And where does she go? She feels something dark encroaching on her, right? Coming into her sunny room. And what is that dark? It's an old catastrophe, as a calm darkens among waterlights. And all of a sudden, the oranges become pungent, and the bright green wings, that's of the cockatoo, right? Seeing things in some procession of the dead. So it's almost like all these concrete images are kind of mingling into this meaning of some dark catastrophe winding across wide water. Go ahead. What do you think?
No, I was just going to say, is she experiencing guilt that she's not at church on Sunday, or is it the thought of death that sort of strikes her kind of and catches her off guard on this otherwise calm and enjoyable Sunday morning?
Well, so we can get to the guilt part. I think there is some guilt, but I think what's happening in this first stanza is we want the words to kind of take us where she's going right now. I don't see anything here that's saying like she's guilty. What's happening is this dark encroachment is impinging on her mind, right? From her pleasant, she's just trying to have coffee, and all of a sudden she's thinking about a procession of the dead, and she's winding across wide river without sound. She's whisked away. And then where does she go? She's stilled for the passing of her dreaming feet. So she's like traveling her dreaming feet over the seas to silent Palestine, dominion of the blood and sepulcher. And I think there may be a sense that you're getting of the guilt in terms of her feeling of not going to church, maybe, because she's thinking about church ideas here. We're getting death images, sepulcher, we're getting religious Palestine, procession of the dead, and the old catastrophe, things like that, which I think is maybe the crucifixion is one way it's interpreted, and I think you can see it that way. But again, let's look at the rest of this. And here's where it comes a little bit more clear. Why should she give her bounty to the dead? So what's her bounty? What is her bounty? What is it? What do you think?
First of all, a bounty is a payment, right?
Yeah.
Why should she give her bounty to the dead? I'm not.
No, but what is her bounty, do you think? So
her life?
Yeah, so maybe I wasn't clear on that. My bad. So a bounty is like a trade, like it's something, and it's a bounty is not just a reward. Like if Maria has broken the law and there's a bounty on her head, I can go and kidnap her, take her and bring her to jail, and boom, I get my bounty, my reward. So it is kind of a reward, but it's a payment. I think it's these pleasant experiences of the day, the world that
why should she give it up for religion?
To the dead, and maybe to the dead is, Jesus or religious figures, sure. But what is divinity if it can come only in silent shadows and in dreams? So again, we're contrasting this always with this lush feeling of her Sunday morning, and enjoying the feeling of your hands on carpet, like the cockatoo, your pet that you love, the sound or the taste of oranges and coffee. I mean, I loved the taste of coffee, right? It's wonderful. And the smell. And she has to give that up for what? Dreams? Silent shadows? What are they giving her? What does she get out of it?
So she almost feels, sort of resentful.
Yeah, I think a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Shall she not find
it? Is religion is it worth it? Is it worthy of me giving up
all this stuff?
Earthly pleasures or sort of
earthly pleasures, I think that's the right way to think about it. And it is, because again, she would not enjoy that day if she were religious. Where would she be Sunday morning? It's called Sunday morning. She would be in church, hearing about the procession of the dead, hearing about the old catastrophe, which is the crucifixion of Jesus, right? Shall she not find in comforts of the sun and pungent fruit and bright green wings, or else in any balm of beauty of the earth, things to be cherished like the thought of heaven? Like the thought of heaven, shouldn't she enjoy those things versus the things in heaven?
Yeah. So she almost finds that divinity that religion promises in the natural world around her.
And in herself, right? Passions of rain or moods in falling snow, right? Human feelings, that's what she's getting, is like, if you've ever stood under snow and let it, just hit your face, and the feeling that brings about, or when you're sad and you just, want to just throw away your umbrella and just, cry in the rain or something like that, or you're happy and you sing in the rain. Like these different types of experiences, grievings and loneliness, subdued elations when the forest blooms, all these emotions connected with collected with nature, gusty emotions on wet roads on autumn nights, all pleasures and all pains, remembering the bough of summer and the winter branch. These are the measures destined for the soul. That's the pagan's view, right?
Yeah.
It's that all these natural things, that's me. I'm one with nature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we have those two. Now, all of a sudden, this is where it gets thrown, I think, a little bit. It's like, why the hell do we have Jupiter or Jove? Jove is the father of the Greek gods. That's his Roman nickname. He's Zeus is the Greek name. Jupiter and Jove are the Roman names. Jove in the clouds had his inhuman birth. Okay, so one thing is, I'm asking myself after I've read it a couple of times, who's talking here? Is it her reflections? Her inner voice?
Well, yes. There's almost like direct speech from her, but I feel like the whole poem is her thought process.
Well, but up here, complacencies to the peignoir and late coffee, like this almost is like a narrator.
No, there's a narrator, yeah.
Here it feels like she's thinking.
Scene, yeah.
It's like it's in her internal monologue almost. And she's like, Jove, and she's like contemplating other gods. No mother suckled him, no sweet land gave large mannered motions to his mythy mind. He moved among us. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what does mythy actually mean?
Mythy?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a word. Like, so myth obviously is a story we tell ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He's in 1930s or whenever this was written, he's a myth. He's not a real person. Well, that's a good question. Like, what is there a word for mythy? Let's see if there's a word for myth. Mythy. Yeah, I don't see it in the Oxford Dictionary that I have. I mean, myth, obviously, which is a traditional story.
Yeah.
Or even exaggerated, exaggerated, idealized conception of a person or thing. But yeah, I mean, he's just being poetic.
Is she still questioning religion, or is she questioning if there are different gods, then why do we, kind of pray to this one, or why do we have this? Why do we have Jesus as a saint instead of Jupiter?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, all we know, right? You're right. I think that is what she's getting to. I think she's getting to a questioning of why not Jesus? Why Jesus? Why not Jupiter? What's the difference between the two? He moved among us as a muttering king, magnificent, would move among his hinds until our blood commingling virginal with heaven brought such requital to desire the very hinds discerned in a star. So, I mean, there's a lot that we could talk about with all this stuff. I think often here like a comparison between the going from Jupiter or in Rome to going to Christ and the virgin birth and all that stuff, which happened at a time when they believed in Jove. They believed in Jupiter as a god, right? And there was actually a virgin birth in the Christian view at that era. Shall our blood fail, or shall it come to the blood of paradise? And shall the earth seem all paradise that we shall know? I don't know if I understand 100% what that means, actually. I don't always understand everything. Shall the earth, what do you think? And shall the earth seem all a paradise that we shall know?
As in like, is life on earth all the paradise that we will know? Yeah, so questioning if there's heaven after there's death. An afterlife.
Yeah. So I think my take on this whole stanza, the sky shall be much friendlier than the now, a part of labor and a part of pain, the next in glory to enduring love, not this dividing in different blue, is that there is something to religion and what religion gives you, right? Is you have these great beings and you have this more than just what's here on earth, this indifferent blue, which is like the sky, right? That's all we have. It's indifferent to you. And I think she's questioning what value it has, what value religion has. But then she says, I am content when waken birds before they fly, test the reality of their misty fields by their sweet questionings. What do you think? I like that. What do you think that means?
I need to read it again.
So she was just having this view of like this. So there is something epic, living in like immortality, living forever, having the heavens above be part of the celestial paradise that I get to join one day. And that's part of the why religion is supposed to be valuable to me. But then she says, remember sitting in her peignoir, well, I'm content when waken birds before they fly test the reality of misty fields by their sweet questionings. She's content. What is she content by? In relation to this religious view.
The physical things around her, like sort of the here and the now, the objects that I guess she can sort of touch, and like the birds. No, well, not really. I'm content when waken birds before they fly test the reality of misty fields by their sweet questioning.
I think you're correct. That's basically it. I think there is a, again, a secular view of like this earth, like, look, birds fly.
Mm-hmm.
That's, what else do you need? Like, that's heaven right there. That's amazing. And I that's all I need. I don't need Jove. I don't need a virgin birthed creature. I just need to see that birds can fly and that they test the reality of misty fields. They don't know if there's going to be, when a bird drops out, that's a sense of faith, right? And you've heard of certain types of birds that like the mother will push them out and they either fly or die, right? And there's a kind of leap of faith idea that's happening there. I think that's kind of what she is conjuring in her mind, is this, that's the leap of faith I need. I don't need a leap of faith that there was a virgin birth and that there's, more, all these questionings of, well, is there a blood of paradise? Shall the earth seem all paradise that we shall know? The sky will be much friendlier than the now. I don't know. I think she's questioning all that. But when the birds are gone and their warm fields return no more, where then is paradise? There's not an haunt of prophecy, nor any old chimera of the grave, neither the golden underground, got them home, nor visionary south, nor cloudy palm, remote on heaven's hill that has endured as April's green endures, or will endure like her embrace, remembrance of awakened birds, or her desire for June and evening tipped by the consummation of the swallow's wings. I mean, I find it a very interesting passage about secular humanism or paganism and the view of getting grandeur from the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's almost like the divinity is not in heaven, it's here in the modern world around her.
In the natural world, I think is what she's saying there.
Natural world, yeah.
But I think you can say modern world in other senses. But okay, let's move on, because I think we talk forever about everyone, and that's we'll never get through this. But she says, but in contentment, I still feel the need of some imperishable bliss. Okay, so that is important, right? So she's saying that, look, again, this is a conversation she's having. So it's helpful to think about the context.
Mm-hmm.
So she's sitting, drinking coffee, then she's encroached on, then she's thinking about, why do I have to give up my Sunday morning and all the beauty of the world for heaven? And she says, well, there is a power to Jove in this comparison between Jove, but he was human, or he didn't have to be, human, and Jesus was given, to the people, and he was sacrificed. And okay, do we need sacrifice? Like, she's questioning all these things. That's, I think, the essence. And then she says, you know what? All I need is to see a beautiful bird and all these things around me. That's heaven right there. There's heaven. There's your heaven. And then she has another thing, and she's like, but in contentment, I still feel the need of some imperishable bliss, something unchanging, right? That because like you could see different birds and different things, and maybe nature changes, it fades, it gets rolled over by
something that's forever, imperishable.
Imperishable, yeah, something that's forever.
Heaven, paradise.
As in heaven, as in paradise, as in the promises of Jesus, as in the promises of an immortal God.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah. So the contentment of watching the birds sort of taking off, is that enough pleasure? Are these earthly sights enough?
Well, is that imperishable?
Mm.
Is it? I mean, she's saying she still feels the need of some imperishable bliss. Well, here is one imperishable universal. Yeah. This is a famous line. Death is the mother of beauty. And what do you think of that? What do you think that
I've
means?
heard it before. I've heard different I've heard it in Russian. It sounds slightly different.
Say it in Russian.
No, but I think it sort of translates into like kind of like death is what makes it worth it, sort of in a way. I don't know if that's what this is saying, but I imagine that it is. Yeah.
Well, what does a mother do?
Gives birth.
She gives
life.
birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a interesting.
Yeah, so death. So you cannot know beauty if you don't know death, as it no sort of there. No.
Well, that's true in this statement. Yeah.
Yeah.
So death is the mother of beauty. So think of death as a person, like think of a sickle, but pregnant. What is it pregnant with? With beauty. Well, why would death be the mother of beauty? What is he saying about beauty and maybe death?
Well, just that beauty is in the knowledge that things will not last. That's what makes things beautiful, knowing that they're not forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting contradiction to he's looking for an imperishable bliss. But why does that make it beautiful? And you're right, by the way. I think that's a really important thing, because we're also talking from like a pagan, atheistic, non-Christian, non.
I mean, it's because sort of death gives that sense of urgency.
I think that's right.
To enjoy the life around us. To find beauty in the things.
It because we know it's going to end. I think there's something to the idea that, hey, look, this isn't going to last forever, and we need to enjoy it. We need to experience it, live in it intensely while it's here, because we know it won't be here forever, because that's just a fact of reality. And the idea of an external experience of that is not enjoyable to me, right? Because I can't experience that. And he's going to say some things about, I mean, like in heaven, like the idea of being beautiful in heaven forever is something you're not actually, it's just not a real law of reality. This seems more of a law of reality. Yeah. Hence from her alone shall come fulfillment to our dreams and our desires. Although she strews the leaves of sure obliteration on our paths, the path sick sorrow took, the many paths where triumph rang its brassy phrase, or love whispered a little out of tenderness, she make the willows shiver in the sun. For maidens who are wont to sit and gaze upon the grass, relinquished to their feet, she causes boys to pile new plums and pears or disregarded plate. The maidens taste and stray, impassioned in the littering leaves. Now, do you get anything out of that? Or does it just sound
bit
interesting?
By bit.
I mean, I don't know that I get a lot sometimes. Like it's all so visual.
Very visual, but I often, and it's not really disjointed, because it's
I don't think it is disjointed.
No, it's not disjointed at all, but it is difficult to pick out the meaning behind some of these things.
I don't know if I have everything here either. I think, I mean, she strews the leaves of sheer obliteration on, so he's doing something about like the leaves. I don't know, something about our paths. And again, we're talking about this woman of beauty. She makes the willow shiver in the sun. That maybe what he's saying, this is just a hypothesis, I don't know. This is my best guess right now, is something like what this beautiful woman does to the meaning of life, in a sense, right? Makes the willow shiver. Maidens who are wont to sit and gaze upon the grass, relinquished to their feet. She causes boys to pile new plums and pears. And I don't know, there's something I'm seeing. I don't think I fully have it, but there's something like,
you know what I have? I have this imagery, like, these sort of paintings where everyone is naked and there's a lot of fruit and trees and water flowing, and I don't know if people are having a good time or if they're having a bad time.
I think, I get the good time for sure. Okay. That the fulfillment of our dreams and our desires. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a meditation on the value of beauty is what I'm getting. And death is the mother of beauty, but there's hence from her. Okay, that's what I'm getting. So I like your picture. And I think there is a value that beauty gives, right? Alone shall come fulfillment to our dreams and our desires. Although she strews the leaves of sure obliteration on our paths, the path sick sorrow took. Maybe that's like, I hate to turn this into a guy thing again, but it's the idea of like what a beautiful woman brings just by existing to a man, in a sense, is one. And I think she can bring this to other women too. The joys of like what is possible, the love whispered a little out of tenderness, but then the leaves she leaves in the pathway that you're not going to get this beauty type thing. Like it's an impossible dream almost of this beauty. It's almost like the idea of reach but not grasp, that kind of thing. It's like right on the border of what you're trying to achieve with this beauty, or trying to.
But this isn't imagery of heaven, no.
No. This is her searching for bliss on earth.
Yeah.
And so the bliss, I think, is like this bliss of beauty that a woman in this case gives out. Like, what is the value of beauty? I think beauty has a value in its own existence. In this case, in a woman, like it brings beauty. Like people are happy when a beautiful woman walks into a room, even if they never talk to her. Right. And I think both men and women, right? I mean, you see a beautiful woman. Like,
yeah.
It's like, wow. And there's like a hopefulness, and she causes boys to do things, right? The maiden's
That's my favorite line in the whole poem. She causes boys to pile new plums and pears. I love this alliteration.
Yeah.
And so this is the one that made me question, like, are we still talking about fruit here, or is there some meaning behind plums and pears? Or because there's like the presence of fruit. There's a lot of it in this poem, but I wasn't always sure if it's.
But I think the presence of the fruit definitely has other meanings, like you're saying, for sure. But what I guess I'm trying to encourage you and everybody to think about is it's there to give you a strong visual image. And because I think what he's trying to do with the poem is use these lush images. That's what I'm getting, is these very lush images to kind of say that this is what heaven is. It's plums. It's plums in the hands of a beautiful woman, or plums eaten and on a disregarded plate. Or no, actually the boys are piling plums and pears on the disregarded plate because the maiden is there, the beautiful maiden, who taste and stray and passion in the littering leaves. And I just see like this kind of frivolous imagery here. And again, it's the lushness. And now, if you're trying to say like, do plums and pears refer to some biblical allusion? Maybe, maybe there's something in regard to the fruit of the tree of knowledge. By the way, it was never said anything about an apple. It's just the fruit. The only reason we think of it as an apple is because painters had to choose something. So when they created it in visual terms, they chose the apple. But it just says they picked from the forbidden. It could have been a peach tree. It could have been anything. Or an orange tree. That could have been anything. So there might be a little bit of that for sure. That's part of it. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So here's a big question that is interesting. Is there no change of death in paradise? Does ripe fruit never fall? So this is in heaven. This is God's realm. Like if I go to heaven, is there no death there?
Yeah.
Do ripe fruit never fall? Or do boughs hang always heavy in that perfect sky, unchanging, yet so like our perishing earth, with rivers like our own that seek for seas they never find, the same receding shores that never touch with inarticulate pang? Why so I think, or what do you think he's saying there?
Okay, so she's wondering whether things die in heaven.
And remember,
if heaven exists.
And remember the only imperishable bliss we know.
Yeah, that is the death is the mother of beauty.
So is there no change of death in paradise?
Yeah, so if there is a paradise, then surely it must contain death.
Yeah. Otherwise, does it have beauty?
In order to be beautiful?
Yeah. Or how can it be beautiful? It doesn't, if death is the mother of beauty.
Yeah.
Right? Does ripe fruit never fall? Because remember, part of what it means to be beautiful is that it is going to change. If it's unchanging on this premise, it's not going to be beautiful. Can't be beautiful. What makes it beautiful is the change. That's what all this fruit, I think, imagery is, trying to get at, or do the boughs hang. So it's like the perfect apple, right? At the moment it's about to fall. That is the perfect, beautiful apple that you want to pick. And it's the perfect ripeness, but that's because death is the mother of beauty. So the next thing that's going to happen is that apple is going to fall and rot.
Yeah.
So it's right at that moment that it's perfectly beautiful. And the next moment is death is the mother of beauty, because again, it's going to happen. If there is no death, then what do we have? Or do boughs hang heavy, blah, 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 that never touch. So again, he's talking about all these natural realities. Why set the pair upon those riverbanks, or spice the shores with odors of the plum? Alas, that they should wear our colors there, the silken weavings of our afternoons, and pick the strings of our insipid lutes. Death is the mother of beauty, he says again. Mystical, within those burning bosom we devise, our earthly mothers waiting sleeplessly. Okay. How you doing? You good?
No, I'm good. I'm just reading it again.
Okay. Are you getting more out of it?
I'm like finding out new things again, as always happens with poetry, of course. Good. But yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not talking.
No. I just wanted to see if anything resonated with you.
No, well, I'm just thinking about the imagery. I'm thinking about my own self.
Oh, well, tell me about yourself.
No, we're just thinking back to your question that, before we started reading the poem, like when you're having a crisis of faith and when you're questioning things, and I'm just trying to think like, I mean, of course, when I had my crisis of faith, it wasn't as poetic and maybe not, the imagery wasn't that strong, but I was just trying to remember, like, what were the questions that I was asking myself as I was trying to find the right answer.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And of course, you weren't a 50-year-old poet. So it's kind of hard for a 10, 12, 13-year-old to come up with these types of things. I know for me, and for some people who do go the secular route, part of what you have to appreciate is the world you live in. Again, if you don't, then you have to go down nihilism. I don't think there's a choice there. I think that's the inevitable outcome if you don't fall in love with the world around you. I mean, think about Howard Roark and how he loved rocks and mountains and how he loved to be able to change them, right? He was like, I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to change the rock and put it into this big skyscraper. And that's his form of of beauty and secular heaven on earth but he loved the rocks. He loved the hills. Remember, his whole philosophy of architecture is to build with nature, to make it like not to, to kind of make it go with the actual natural sun and how the sun hits into your house, and not try to just cookie cutter everything and make it a practical place to live, but to make it a real place of beauty.
Yeah. But can I ask you a question? So
no.
So there's a lot of sorry, it always happens. A lot of, obviously, so yes, she's appreciating the beauty of the natural world around her. Is she juxtaposing Christianity with paganism, or just sort of, loving her life and the physical form that life takes around her? Because I mean, and I don't know much about paganism. Is paganism just the appreciation of the natural world, or is it almost like what, devout environmentalists go through, where like everything is for the earth? Like, I'll pray to the earth and hug trees.
Well, so the pagans he or she references, the character in the poem, is Jove. And I do think there's a slight elevation of Jove to Jesus in her view. And, that he was superior in a sense, and people worshiped him, but he didn't have to come here to be with us. And it's kind of one thing she says. And, so to answer your question directly, paganism is the old pre-Christian view of the world that every river was a god or had a god that represented it, but it was the river was a god, the forest was a god, the trees were all gods, there were nymphs dancing around, every planet was its own god, everything was like every natural element of the world had a mystical god behind it. You had to worship to the gods. If you were going to go hunting, you had to worship to Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. If you went to war, you had to, Ares and Athena, you had to pray to, like every emotions. Lust is Venus. Venus is the personification of lust, and love is more her son, actually, Eros. But she was really that passion of sexual desire. And so everything was like that. That's the pagan world, is that everything has a god in it, in a sense. Right.
Okay.
Versus the Christian, where it's like there's just one person up there and we have to, sacrifice all of this for this kind of being that sacrificed himself for us. And it's all about sacrificing and not enjoying all those beautiful things, like this ripe plum or this beautiful woman. Right? That's just not what they're all about as much. And so that, I think, is what he's kind of talking about. Now here we have this, again, supple. That's such a great word. Supple,
a great word.
And turbulent. A ring of men shall chant in orgy on a summer morn their boisterous devotion to the sun. That's Jove. Not as a god, but as a god might be, naked among them like a savage source. So again, she is kind of thinking about these ancient pagan rituals to actual things in reality, not to some abstracted god, with a white cloak separated from all of us. Out of their blood returning to the sky, and in their chant shall enter voice by voice the windy lake wherein their Lord delights. The trees like seraphim. Did you look that one up?
No, but I need to.
Okay, so let's look at, it's angels, but let's see if there's anything more to it. Seraphim. Pretty sure it's angels. Did I spell it right? So I think seraphim is angels, or some kind of angels.
I'm sure it's a name in some countries. It must be. Yeah, I feel like I've heard it.
It's actually not coming up on my dictionary. That's interesting. Oh, seraph. That's why. Yeah, it's a type of celestial or heavenly being. So it's seraphim, I think, is what that's going on, which is an interesting mistake. I don't know what the meaning of that mistake is. The trees like seraphim and echoing hills that choir among themselves long afterwards. They shall know well the heavenly fellowship of men that perish and of summer morn. And whence they came and whither they shall go, the dew upon their feet shall manifest. So again, this is the kind of pagan view.
Yeah, okay. She just returns to this other system of worship, to Christianity.
Well, I think it's interesting, like she's viewing this of like this ancient pagan ring of naked men. I think they're all naked, just like the god, dancing. And, there is that nakedness. Like you said, you had that image of people dancing naked with trees and waterfalls and lakes around them. I think that's exactly right. It's a worship of nature, essentially. That's the easiest way to think of it. Okay, that last stanza. Now, so she's gone through this whole journey in her mind. Remember, she's just sitting there drinking her damn coffee and just enjoying this crazy journey of contemplation and religious sacrifice. And why can't we worship Jove instead? She hears upon that water without sound. That water without sound. She said that a couple times earlier at the beginning. That's an interesting one. Water without sound.
But it's almost eerie.
It is, yeah, right? Yeah. Like it's a weird dreamlike state. So she hears upon that water without sound a voice that cries, "The tomb in Palestine is not the porch of spirits lingering. It is the grave of Jesus where he lay. We live in an old chaos of the sun, or old despondency of day and night, or island solitude, unsponsored, free, of that wide water, inescapable." So these are some conclusions I think she's coming from. So the voice of nature is how I look at that, right? It's nature itself is saying the tomb in Palestine is not the porch of spirits. It's just the grave for a dude named Jesus. That's how I take that. Deer walk upon our mountains, and the quail whistle about us their spontaneous cries. Sweet berries ripen in the wilderness, And in the isolation of the sky at evening, casual flocks of pigeons make ambiguous undulations as they sink downward to darkness on extended wings. Downward to darkness on extended wings. Where are they going?
Okay, so just from the top. If we are unsponsored and free, that means no one is looking over us. So is she concluding that there is no supernatural, there is no God? Free maybe means like.
Wait, where's that line? That's
the our all dependency of day and night, our island solitude, unsponsored and free. Our island solitude, I mean just solitude, like we are alone, unsponsored, free.
Yeah. Unruled.
Unruled, yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so then back to the imagery of nature all around us. And in the isolation of the sky, at evening, casual flocks of pigeons make ambiguous undulations as they sink. So up in the sky, there is no heaven. There's just the pigeons flying into darkness on extended wings.
Ambiguous undulations as they sink downward to darkness. Evening, casual. I mean, it's again an interesting image, right? And in the isolation of the sky, so just these natural beings at evening, flocks of pigeons make an ambiguous undulations. Maybe he's looking for meaning in that as they sink downward to darkness on extended wings. It feels like it's right there, the meaning, but it's like struggle to get it, right?
Just like with religion, Kirk. It's
just like, there you go. Yeah, just like religion. I agree.
To me, I feel like she concludes that there isn't a God. Well, it's those birds that she was content with seeing around her in the second or third stanza.
So that's what I was going back to. Yeah, the birds that we talked about earlier. Where was it? Wakened birds before they fly test the reality of misty wings.
Yeah.
By their sweet questionings. What do they question? Is there an answer? No, it's ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
Yeah.
But, so flying downwards to darkness. I mean, is this? Well, the first time I read it, I felt like flying to their death, but I don't actually think that anymore. I think that she has concluded that there isn't a God, no heavenly deity, just sort of flocks of pigeons flying in the evening.
Well, but that is a God.
Okay, fine. Yes, the pagan. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I think is the point. Is this is the expression of how pagans saw the world.
Yeah.
And she's questioning this Christian stranglehold on these types of things. And like, remember what she said about the bounty. And so do we have to give this up is the feeling that we have. And, so I think look, what I really get out of the poem personally, and I'd be curious if you get this or anything else, but one thing I get out of it is simply the feeling of this lush paradise of earth and this crisis of thinking about, well, why not pagan view of things? Why do I have to go to church? Why do I have to experience this? Why can't I just, enjoy my oranges and my cockatoo and this rug mingling?
Sure.
Right? That's really, I think at the end of the day, the main message. I don't think it's a new religion per se, like that you have to okay, here's the edicts you're going to follow.
No, but is pagan and atheist interchangeable in this poem?
Well, pagans are definitely atheists of the Christian God to a sense. So remember, atheism just means without belief in theism.
Yeah.
That's all it means. Atheism, as many people have pointed out, is not a belief in anything. It's a non-belief. It means I don't believe in this. And it usually is in reference to Christianity or Judaism, or the Judeo-Christian, Abrahamic religions is what it usually refers to. And many, Christians will say, for instance, one thing I see, or excuse me, many atheists say as like a rebuttal to Christians, it's like, well, you're an atheist too. You don't believe in Jupiter or any of the hundreds of thousands of gods that have existed. You just believe in your one God. So you're an atheist to you're a non-believer of all those other gods. That's one thing I've heard them say, right? I don't know if you've ever heard that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that's kind of like, this is not, so one, he doesn't say atheism at all. This is not about atheism. That's something we brought to it. And I think it's, for me, it's what I see it as in terms of like atheism, again, is a negation. The reason I read the Fountainhead quote about reverence and all those things is that we have such a hard time grasping these concepts outside, worship, exaltation, sacred, reverence. We don't like, she reveres her cockatoo. And she's struggling to, why can't I just revere that? Why is that not enough? Why are this beautiful woman, the mother of death is, why can't that be sufficient? Why do I have to have something outside of that?
But I still think that unlike Rourke, she's still trying to like reinvent belief, just not in Christianity, in still a belief in the supernatural, just without the Christian emphasis, just without the Christian emphasis. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is what I was saying. There's definitely a mystical element to this. And that's, I think part of the nature itself is a kind of spirit animal or spirit being itself. But what I guess the thing to me that's superior is that, for me, in terms of Christianity, is that, one, it's paganism is much more about this world. And it's simply an ignorance about scientific laws and other things like that, that maybe gives rise to like, where does the Nile end up and where does it come from? It's a question they might ask. Where does that, this lake, it has this stream, where's the beginning of that stream come from? And where's the mother of all the streams? Oh, there must be a major goddess of the oceanus that surrounds the entirety of the world, and that's feeding all of these streams. That is our life giving. Like, that's how a pagan thinks, is that everything around us there's some God responsible for the cause. And that part of it, I obviously don't agree with, but the admiration and the love of the beauty of it is something I do like personally.
Yeah.
And the beauty of this world and everything about it, including, there's a touch of this, although it's not super heavy, the beauty of our own desires, the natural aspect of our own feelings. This is like the boys type thing relation. I think there's some of that, although it's not heavy in this poem, but it's present a little bit. So, yeah.
All I want to say is, kids, read poetry so that that it's easier to appreciate these things and understand them and relate to them. Yeah.
Well, so the question is for you is, one, do you, because you struggle with this. I struggled with this poem. I still struggle with it. I told you, there's stuff is like, I don't know what that means. I'm not sure. Like, sometimes I have to like extrapolate based on my best guess of multiple lines. But did you like it when you first read it? Did you like it when you read it several times? And do you like it or do you not like it now?
I definitely like it more now.
Okay.
I mean, look, it's a sort of enigmatic poem.
It is.
But like very philosophical. So many questions. It's a difficult one. I really like it. And I think it's making me want to explore actually paganism more. I think. I don't think I understand it. Not that I don't understand it. I haven't. Yeah. I mean, look, I grew up in the Greek culture where the prevalence of Greek mythology was there. And all my friends around me bore names of the ancient, Greek, of the Greek gods.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Athena and Zeus and Artemis. Yeah, I went
have
to
a family
school.
member
I went to
Artemis?
school with so I grew up in Cyprus, which is Greek. A
Oh, I know about it. Yeah, I've never been there, but I would
Yeah,
love.
so
I
it's
mean,
not
that's
It's not one of the
top
Greek
list.
islands, but it's yeah, heavily influenced by Greek culture, Greek
Yeah.
Cypriots. Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, anyway, just this is on a tangent.
Well, relevant now, but
Yeah, it is. It's
yeah,
very, yeah.
it's about the experience of the world around you and like this
No,
stuff
absolutely. And
that
look,
you
the
could
poem is like, yeah,
grasp.
just exploring life's meaning without God, without religion, and that meaning can be found in sort of the beauty of the natural world that surrounds us, paying attention to how we experience the world around us. Yeah, inevitability of death. Um, maybe
Well,
like a life as an experience is limited.
yeah, the
But
inevitability of death is a big one
yeah,
because that's something that the Christians promise against.
yeah,
And what is one of the central tenets of this poem? If there's no death, what is there not?
yeah.
There's not beauty because death is the mother of beauty. So if we have this religion with no death in it, then we
Mm,
can't have beauty. And this poem is all about beauty and the beauty of the
yeah.
world around us, the beauty of the woman and her, just, I mean, I fell in love with the woman from the first line, complacency of peignoir. Like, I just love the visual as a man, even of just a beautiful woman lounging around in her Sunday dress, drinking coffee. And, like I have a strong image of that. I think it's gorgeous. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so luxuriant. She's just
Yeah.
lounging there. And then of course all the other imagery adds to it. Like I see it as such a bright sight. All this,
Mm,
the popping of colors. Like I wish a great painter would create this. I mean, this is something I want to create in my life, is to see that woman in my life. If I ever saw that woman in my life, it's over. Like I got it. Cause like, that's just that kind of the ability to
yeah.
luxuriate the way that I see her. And she's, she's going through this crisis of faith, of course, but I think the fact that Wallace Stevens is using that imagery is like, and then he's contrasting with the Christian view of things.
Yeah.
That this is not what Christians want, no matter what they might say, by the way. But he doesn't say this, but like what they can't, because they believe in an undying human, that we're
Yeah.
all undying, that we are all immortal, and that we're, our souls are, and we're never going to die. Well, that means our souls have no beauty, and we have no beauty, and there is no beauty, because death is the mother of beauty. You need death in a sense, because change is part
Mm.
of that. And I just, again, just picturing her sitting there thinking about all this stuff and just the ripeness of all of the beauty in this poem.
She herself is ripe and supple, I gather.
He doesn't say that, except that he
No, but
says,
that's what you
yeah,
infer, right? She's lounging in her robe
yeah,
at home and drinking coffee with oranges, which, by the way, I didn't know was a thing.
to do what?
So I've got oranges with coffee.
Oh, yeah. You never seen like cut up oranges for breakfast, or?
Mm, okay, yeah,
I mean, I
maybe,
always have
yeah.
coffee with breakfast. Anything I eat for breakfast is going to be with coffee. So I've had like
No,
oranges
sure,
and
and I
yeah.
agree with you, but I almost feel like it was almost like on purpose as well. Like,
Oh, sure.
that's just the smell of coffee, the smell of oranges, and
Uh-huh.
like very like vivid and bright and sort of full of life. He didn't say like some lukewarm tea, or a glass of or like a glass of
Yeah.
water, because
Yeah.
that would be very
Yeah.
that's yeah, it's like coffee is a paganism and a glass of boring water is this religion that she is showing skepticism towards, but not skepticism in like what word am I looking for? Not like a angry skepticism.
Mm.
Less about like religion is awful, more like the life around us is beautiful, and
Yeah.
that's what and that's why I choose it
Well,
over some kind of, maybe, I don't know, Christian rhetoric. No.
no, I think you're right. I think all of that's there. the journey she goes on, I think, is the important thing, right? So
Yeah.
she's questioning, because again, it happens to her. This whole thing is marked by she's enjoying this stuff, and it kind of dissipates into this encroachment, right? She's encroached on. That means something that she doesn't want is kind of foreboding on her. And that's this question of this immortal soul going to church, doing your prayers and doing all that stuff. And so I think you're right about all what you're saying, but I think she's simply starting by questioning. And she's just like, why should she give her bounty? What is divinity if it can only come to me in shadows and in dreams? Because what is not coming to her in shadows and dreams? All these rich, lush visuals of the world around her. But religion, the way she experiences religion in church her whole life, comes to her in shadows and dreams. And that's it. That's all you get. So if you're a Christian, you might think of yourself as like a steward of the earth, but you're not a relisher of the earth. Not qua Christianity, because there's nothing in Christianity that says do anything other than relish it. I mean, this is so true in just every aspect of life, just like the relishing of relationships. You just want to like hold, the relishing of the person you're with, the relishing of your job, the way that Howard Rourke is like an orgasm when he's touching, she uses that orgiastic language when he's touching the steel of the girders to his skyscraper or whatever he's building. And that feeling is not I don't care what any Christian says, that is not the focus of Christianity. The focus of Christianity is to, get through this veil of tears, essentially. And they all interpret it different ways. And you might have the obligation to be a steward to the land, to, the sex is all about procreation, right? It's not like I don't get that from this poem. I mean, he doesn't talk about sex, but there's kind of hints at it a little bit, and it's in the lushness, and it's about enjoying the sensuality of it, because that's what earth is. So it's so sensational, it's so perceptual, this poem, and that's where beauty lies. That's what wonder is. In Christianity, it's all looking up at something outside of earth, outside of existence, and that's a problem for him or her, and she's having a crisis, and I get it.
I love that he picked a woman, because obviously these are the poet's thoughts in poetic form, I guess.
Yeah. What do you think is the significance of choosing a woman? Why not a man? Do you think there's?
I think because there's all this sort of, sensuous scenery, like you said. I don't know.
Men can't be sensuous, is that what you're saying?
No, they can't. But I think it's just there's,
I'm just kidding.
You think of this, like the solitary figure contemplating beauty, death, nature, and of course it can be a man. But I think maybe.
Well, would a man have a crisis of faith in a different way?
Yeah,
maybe.
Definitely.
Like,
I think it would be all like thunderstorms and.
Maybe thunderstorms.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some sexism here where she's having her crisis of faith through these sensual things. And we think of women as sensual more than men. And maybe they are, maybe they're not. I don't know. Is it a cultural thing? I don't know. Like, why are they, would a man write out a syllogism of arguments? And because she's not really she's asking questions, but she's not doing it. I don't want to say this because I'm going to get beat up. She's not doing it in a logical way. She's doing it in an emotional way. She's experiencing everything emotional, right? Yeah. And so is it because she's a woman? Is that sexism? I don't know. Or is it, I don't look at it that way. I think it's just this character happens to be that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's, she is asking good questions, and she's smart, and she's experiencing. But I think so this is Jordan Peterson. Leonard Peikoff said something once in one of his lectures on I don't remember where it was maybe something on understanding, it might have been understanding objectivism, but just how men tend to be rationalistic more than women, and women tend to lean towards empiricism. So he has this whole theory, and objectivism has this whole theory about rationalism. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but that rationalism is like ideas above concretes, empiricism is basically like concretes, but you're not seeing the similarities, but it's just concretes without principles and abstractions. And he said this thing that he's noticed that women tend to be more empirical, and men tend to be more rational. And his hypothesis, and he has this whole thing, please don't throw fruit at me and beat me up or whatever. But he says, and it's not universally true. Of course, some women are very rationalistic, some men are very empirical. It's not universal, it's just a kind of tendency that you notice. And one hypothesis was, because women are, and I'm kind of paraphrasing or saying it in my own words, but because women are more allowed to be emotional, and what emotions are is, the way that they're experienced, I think, is through visual, perceptual things, right? Is like well, yeah, I don't know if I have a good example. That's, I think, my view of it. I don't want to put that in his words, but something like they have a more concrete connection to the world, and men are a little bit disconnected from concrete sometimes in reality, in that sense, because they do accept ideas, and maybe part of it is the disconnection from emotions as a possibility.
But he said rational or rationalistic?
Rationalism, not rational. Like, both are equally capable of being rational. And he's not saying that women are not rationalistic ever, or he's just, so rationalism is, again, ideas over concrete reality, right? It's floating abstractions, and men have that as a tendency. It's like when men write, it'll be like long abstractions of connected abstractions, and they will rarely ever give, like, once in a while, maybe they'll give an example. But when women write, it's, about it might be, now again, this is generalization.
I know. Don't you? So, you don't have to. I don't want
to.
It with like a disclaimer.
When you like talk to a woman, it's like the way women might vent, for instance, is it'll be about like little things that a friend might do that they noticed that a man will just gloss right over. He has no clue about any of that stuff, and it's like teeny little. Because again, that's the perceptual. Like, I think women do tend to be more worldly in that sense, and I think it's a good thing.
Definitely. Well, okay, not definitely, but definitely. I think they pick up on details, and whether these are like significant details or not is a different question. I do think women can go off on a tangent sometimes, but men can be too like oblivious to things that are like obvious.
Exactly, and that's what he was saying. And it's, again, it's not like men only do that always and women only.
No, of course.
There is tendencies of, I think women are more capable because of these emotions to understand the nuances of relationships. Yeah. And if, faster and more clearly than a lot of men. It's something that makes it challenging to be in a relationship sometimes, and something that you have to work out and figure out how to do that. And so, I think the point of this is that, the question was, why did Wallace Stevens choose a woman? Well, I think her sensual connection to the world, to birds, to beauty, and we don't think of men as beauty as much. Although I think, there's a masculine beauty and a feminine beauty, but that's another question for another day. But, I think that's my view of why he probably chose a woman to experience this sensual experience journey.
And I'm glad he did.
There you go. I am too. I like this poem. I chose it for when I did a series called Sunday Morning Poetry. This is the first one. So nice. My whole point was to, hey, let's stop going to church, but we need these religious concepts, or these high level ethical concepts. So let's try to get them from poetry, and let's have a new church. The Church
of Kirk Barbera.
Which Kirk means church.
Sign me up.
Church, I don't know if you know this, but Kirk means church in Irish. I think it is.
Does it?
Oh yeah. I think it's Irish or Scottish or something like that. So if you look up my name, it'll say Scottish church, I think.
Sound like phonetically kind of the same.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody. So that was Sunday Morning by Wallace Stevens with Maria and Church. And hopefully you guys enjoyed today's church session, and we'll see you next time.